The Assembly will hear an address by His Excellency Philip Isdor Mpango, Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania. I request protocol to escort His Excellency. I have great pleasure in welcoming His Excellency Mr. Philip Isdor Mpango, Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania. I invite him to address the Assembly.
President of the United Nations General Assembly, Secretary General of the United Nations, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, distinguished delegates. I wish to begin by conveying to this august body fraternal greetings from Her Excellency Samia Suluhu Hassan, President of the United Republic of Tanzania, who could not attend this year's session due to pressing national commitments. It is therefore my distinct honor and privilege to address the 77th session of the United Nations General Assembly on behalf of the government and people of the United Republic of Tanzania. The key lesson we have learned from the COVID-19 pandemic is that the world needs to be better prepared in terms of national and global health systems to be able to handle future pandemics. This entails investing more in building health infrastructure and beefing up the health workforce, as well as enhancing national and regional capacity to manufacture drugs, supplies, vaccines, and medical equipment. In addition, Africa's marginalization in the provision of vaccines underscored the need for African countries to work together in the development and nurturing of indigenous solutions through joint medical and scientific research. The pandemic also brought to the fore the need to invest more in public health education, especially preventive medicine, to build individual resilience, including body fitness, healthy diet, and habits. However, I wish to acknowledge that although international support to Africa in taming the spread of the global pandemic through provision of diagnostic equipment, medicines, vaccine support programs, and financing came late, it was critical in winning the war against the pandemic. And therefore, Tanzania would like to thank all our development partners who have been working with us to deal with the pandemic and put the country on a bright post-COVID-19 recovery path. Currently, the government continues with the vaccination campaign, whereby, as of 11th September, we had already vaccinated 60.56% of the targeted population. Mr. President, with respect to climate change, we are indeed at a tipping point. The United Republic of Tanzania appreciates all individual efforts and other collective measures taken thus far in implementing interventions geared at upscaling, mitigation, and adaptation as stipulated in the Kyoto Protocol of 1997 and the Paris Agreement of 2015. However, despite the efforts, we are observing unprecedented changes across the whole climate system in every region. The fact remains that the most vulnerable countries, including Tanzania, have been disproportionately affected, and nor do we possess the capacity to effectively respond. Tanzania has put forward ambitious targets on both adaptation and mitigation through national determined contributions. The government spends on average $500 million per annum on adaptation measures and up to 3% of its GDP on mitigation and building community resilience. With the help of the international community, we are committed to continually update our nationally determined contributions and make important progress to tackle climate change. Yet, unless there are immediate, rapid, and large-scale reductions in greenhouse gas emissions, limiting warming to at least 2 degrees Celsius will be elusive. As much as we remain committed, most of the developing countries have insufficient fiscal space and weak debt sustainability status to address increasing demand for climate resilience interventions. Hence, addressing the climate crisis requires reliable access to climate finance. It is on this note that Tanzania calls on the international community to live up to its commitments made under the Paris Agreement. Enhanced capacity building, technology transfer, support for adaptation and mitigation measures, as well as the creation of independent loss and damage financial facility must be implemented in order to scale up the fight against climate change. We need to take actions and walk the talk as a matter of urgency. I must at this point emphasize that Tanzania and the rest of Africa need a just transition from fossil fuels to renewable energy. Africa must be given time to adjust, since the majority of Africans have no access to energy. The well-established principle of common but differentiated responsibilities and respective capabilities must be observed. In this regard, we call upon the lifting of opposition to global financing and implementation of transformative projects in our countries that aim to harness our hydrocarbon deposits for energy and other equally important uses to address our critical development needs. Mr. President, it would be remiss of me not to end my statement without acknowledging that the world celebrated Kiswahili language for the first time this year on 7th July, following the historic declaration of the United Nations Educational and Scientific Organization, Unesco, designating 7th July as the World Kiswahili Language Day. As the birthplace of the Kiswahili language, Tanzania commends the efforts of the United Nations in promoting multilingualism as a core value essential in achieving the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development and the African Union Agenda 2063. To conclude, let me once again reaffirm the resolve of the United Republic of Tanzania to uphold the 3 pillars of the United Nations, namely peace and security, development, and human rights. I also call upon all of us to renew our commitment and prioritization of actions, especially on those SDGs where we lag behind. We remain committed to working closely with the United Nations and its member states in the spirit of multilateralism and global solidarity towards a sustainable future. I thank you.
On behalf of the Assembly, I wish to thank the Vice President of the United Republic of Tanzania for the statement just made, and I request protocol to escort His Excellency.